if I don't walk away, I feel like I've spent a lot of time working, but when I look back on it, I realize I wasn't efficient at all. It wasn't quality work time. I just was kind of dinking around in my inbox, or actually ending up doing random, more like mom type stuff. And I didn't actually work. So I have to be very careful that when I sit down at my laptop, if it's for QBQ, I'm doing the QBQ stuff. And I don't get sucked into checking my kids' grades or emailing my kids' teachers or planning a grocery list or whatever. I have to be pretty clear with myself. No, this is QBQ time. And then I have to walk away, or else I do just get sucked into this. I can't even tell you what I do. It's just kind of nebulous. And I look back on it and I'm what did I get done today? Nothing. So I do have to walk away to kind of break the spell of the laptop.
Kind of getting a 2-for-1 here. I got the brains behind QBQ, Kristen Lindeen, who a mom of 4, active in her community, active in her church, does a ton of keynote speaking, training, facilitation, and all the stuff and all the things. And she manages to do it in less than 40 hours per week, doesn't work nights, weekends. I'm getting her to tell us how she does that. Take a listen in. She's got a lot of good little nuggets here. Do more by doing less. With me, Charles Alexander, for small business owners, startups, and busy folks. Tell us what you do with QBQ.
All right. Well, QBQ is a family-run business. It's my dad and myself, and then we've hired my sister as a virtual assistant to kind of help us with some of the details. So Dad and I, for almost 2 decades, have been doing this together. He, of course, did it long before I did.
Sure.
He was starting the company, writing the books, doing all the things before I was even out of school. But then he invited me to join in. And so I've been teaching and training on QBQ, facilitating workshops, content all around the country, as well as virtually for almost 17 years, I guess.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah. And we've created some tools together, and that's what we do. It's pretty awesome. It's a message that's worth giving my time and energy to.
So quickly explain, I know there's a previous podcast that folks can listen to, but without having them hit pause, go back, find it. Tell them what QBQ is.
Yeah. So the QBQ is a tool that helps each of us individuals practice personal accountability. So accountability is one of those words that you'll hear thrown around by parents, teachers, corporations. It'll be in mission statements and value statements, but not many people can really identify or articulate what it looks like. So what my dad did and what I continue to do is to help people kind of flesh out how incredibly simple it is to practice personal accountability. So the QBQ is a tool that it's kind of that framework that helps individuals understand how to walk out the actual taking ownership of things in our life. So it's really just asking better questions. The QBQ is a tool that helps us make better choices in the moment. And we do that by noticing the types of questions we're asking ourselves. So a lot of times you'll hear what we call incorrect questions.
What's an incorrect question?
To me, like, when is someone going to clean up this mess over here? Who made this decision that caused everything to fall apart? Why can't my team work together? When is upper management going to tell us what's going on around here? These questions would be considered lousy or incorrect questions. They're not helpful in any way. They simply lead us to some things we call traps: victim thinking, procrastination, and blame. And QBQ just works to help us flip those questions around. So instead of saying, why doesn't anyone get back to me? How can I get the information I need to make this decision? Who made this mess? Well, what can I do to help clean it up and then move forward? How can we avoid messes like this in the future? Why doesn't anyone tell me what's going on? Well, what can I do to take action in my area of expertise and responsibility right now? So there's always a better question we can ask. So we really just drill down this kind of vague concept of accountability and drill it down into these very practical steps of asking ourselves better questions in the moment to take ownership and make a difference.
Why does Peggy, the dog, bark at the UPS man? What I should say is, what can I do to help ease Peggy's struggles? How can I stop her from doing it?
Exactly.
Poor Peggy. What kind of dog is he?
Oh, she's a pug.
Pug. Pugs have personality.
Yeah, they do. And at the end of the day, what I end up asking with Peggy most often is what we call the ultimate QBQ.
Ooh.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
The ultimate QBQ. How can I let go of what I can't control? Because I can't control if that dog barks at the UPS guy or not.
That's very 12-step-ish.
Yes, it is. Very much.
Look, in looking at all of this then, and again, I'll reiterate one more time, I'm not keeping Kristen from telling us about QBQ, which is fabulous. We got a podcast episode on that. I'm way more interested in how she does all of this and still keep her sanity, which maybe by the end she'll tell us she's absolutely bananas, and then we'll find out.
Yeah.
So look, how old are your kids?
14 and a half, 12, 9 and a half, and 6.
Good night.
Yeah.
Nice boys or girls?
Boy, girl, boy, girl. Very organized.
Boy,
it was
girl,
one part of my life that was very organized.
So, look, how do you go about out of the gate? So one of the first things I always ask people when I'm coaching them, working with them in our group, is about what they want their work week to look like. As in, how do you structure your work week? And most of the time, the answer is just, I work till I get it all done.
Yeah.
And then when I ask people what they want their work week to look like, I get a very different answer. So with you, how do you, what is your normal work week, normal being a relative thing, what does it normally look like?
Yeah.
What hours, what days?
Yeah, it's actually been such a journey for me to figure that out because probably like many of the people who come to you for help, I felt like I just was tethered to my laptop and needed to work all the time. I had to be available all the time to answer a client or to answer my dad, who is my boss.
Sure.
So it's been a growth journey for me to figure out, no, it's okay for me to go and like time block and take this chunk of time to go run errands and do what I need to do as a mom and a manager of this household, and then come back and spend 2 hours at my laptop, emails. The trap I would get into is I would then sit there and wait for more emails to come in, so I would have more to do, and that's such a downfall. Right. So anyway, all that aside, I typically look to sit down at my laptop at least once a day. I try not to sit there more than an hour, and I just go through whatever's in my inbox, whatever organizational system is helping me at that time, because I always have to switch it up because I get bored. Systems stop working for me after a while, and I have to find new ones.
Sure.
So currently, right now, it's little files in my Mac mail, and I just go through those and see who I need to follow up with, and then I have to force myself to walk away. Otherwise, I will just sit there and keep looking for things to do. But for me, it's about 2 hours a day, unless I'm traveling. On the weeks that I travel and I'm out of my daily routine for 48 to 72 hours, it looks a little different. I try to get a lot of that email work done on the airplane so that when I'm home, I can do home stuff that I missed out on for 2 or 3 days.
So in doing that, when you're you're working for chunks at a time, an hour to 2 hours at a time. So that lets you kind of get focused in on what you're doing. And then you purposely take a break. Why are you purposely walking away from your laptop?
If I don't walk away, I feel like I've spent a lot of time working, but when I look back on it, I realize I wasn't efficient at all. It wasn't quality work time. I just was kind of dinking around in my inbox or actually ending up doing random, more like mom type stuff. And I didn't actually work. So I have to be very careful that when I sit down at my laptop, if it's for QBQ, I'm doing the QBQ stuff. And I don't get sucked into checking my kids' grades or emailing my kids' teachers or planning a grocery list or whatever. I have to be pretty clear with myself. No, this is QBQ time. And then I have to walk away, or else I do just get sucked into this. I can't even tell you what I do. It's just kind of nebulous. And I look back on it and I'm what did I get done today? Nothing. So I do have to walk away to kind of break the spell of the laptop.
Since most of us dads, and I'm not all dads, most of us dads don't check grades like ever. So first of all, I appreciate that. Secondarily, it's frustrating that it's frustrating. I guess it's good that it's real time and we can check on it now before the report card comes out. But That's one of the many, many things. And, my wife will also tell me, she works from home. She has her own bookkeeping business. And I try not to mansplain too many things, although I get very guilty of it very quickly. Well, what'd you work on? Well, it's just so many things. What was it? And then you can see like a glaze over face, like, I don't know, but I was at the laptop hammering away all day. So what we get hung up into, and it's not a male or female thing, it may be generally different for men and women, but, we'll check email for a while and then we'll go to LinkedIn and then we'll go to Facebook and then we'll go to the project management tool that we're in, and then think, I need to write for a few minutes. Then I start writing, and then I get lost and I check the kids' grades. Or for me, I'll go to, I manage my fantasy football team like I should probably manage my kids' grades.
For sure.
And then you bounce around. So it's really key. And I love the fact that you say, I purposely get up and walk away. Mm-hmm. And I do the same things. I'll get up and go take a walk, because if I don't, I'll get sucked into the same thing. You're looking for that. Sounds silly to say, but that next little dopamine hit, that little, little rise in a notification trying to tell you something. So in looking at, how you set your week up, do you have certain days that you try to shut down early, or do you have a shutdown routine? Do you work every weekend? How does that work?
Good question. Certain days I try to, on Thursdays, it's interesting that today's a Thursday, I try to keep my workload a little lighter because we host a community group for our church in the evenings. Mm-hmm. So on Thursdays, I try to keep it a little lighter on the work, just so that I'm more in like house prep mode, like, whoa, everybody's laundry is all over the living room right now. Yeah. Like that has to be my priority today. So Thursdays, I do try to shut down a little earlier. Otherwise, I don't work on the weekends unless something urgent comes in. But typically, since our clientele is corporate, it's pretty rare to get any type of QBQ related business over the weekend. Yeah, so that's not hard for me to keep it off the weekends. Throughout the week, I really just I have that Calendly out there that people can schedule time with me on. So often what ends up happening is if someone schedules a call within the hours, the parameters that I've set up, which is typically like the school day, if someone schedules a call in there, then I just look ahead, and that's where I batch my work around for that day. So like today, I looked at the calendar. I was like, oh, okay, I have this 11 o'clock thing. I'm going to work from 10:30 to 12:30. And before that, I'm getting groceries, which is what I did. And after that, I'm doing a quick workout, and I'm cleaning up the house to get ready for tonight. Sure. I kind of allow, because I'm customer service based and I need to be available for clients when they're available, I allow their schedule to dictate mine to an extent with boundaries in place.
The laundry. Why is it? I guess we were all like that when we were a teen. We would just undress anywhere and just keep wandering through the house, because that's true. In their room, in the living room, in the kitchen. Why is there shoes in the kitchen? Yeah.
Socks everywhere. There's always socks. I keep my socks on all day. I don't understand this whole peel off my socks wherever I am phenomenon.
That's where all the left socks are there at Kristen's house.
Yes, they are.
So you mentioned batching, which is a fantastic little thing to discuss. So in looking at what you work on, do you try to batch some of the like tasks together where you get in that frame and that mode, and I'm working on this one thing?
Let's be super honest. In an ideal world, yes, that's what I'm doing. Do I execute that well? No, because I am distractible and there are 100 tabs open on my screen. But ideally, I sit down. So we have clients who license our training program, and I have to consistently stay in touch with those clients, as well as remind them of their annual renewals that will be invoiced every year. So that's one thing I've been pretty successful at batching, because I'll just open up that spreadsheet, shoot off all those client contact, touch base emails and reminders, and then close it down. So that's something I've found some success in batching. My goal is to find some success in batching writing. Yes. But because writing takes creative thought, and it's not the dopamine hit of checking off that task.
Yep.
That has been way more difficult. For a while, I was telling myself every Friday morning, you're going to write, even if it's just a little blurb, and you're going to put it on LinkedIn. That worked for like 3 weeks.
Sure.
And I fell out of the habit, and I haven't gotten back to it. So my answer is, ideally, I'm batching a lot better than I am. I understand the importance of it and the effectiveness of it, but I've yet to really conquer doing it super well.
So for any of these things that we're discussing, prioritizing and batching and automating and outsourcing, I'll even have people ask, well, the folks in your group, what happens after they master all that? Do they just leave it? Like, man, master it. It's like, Dave Ramsey has a jillion followers, and he's given the most bare bones basic advice. Live on less than you make.
Right.
When people achieve debt, when they become debt free, they don't quit. They don't give up on personal finance because they still struggle. They have times where they're weaker than others. They have expenses that popped up they thought they had saved for that they weren't. Same, health and wellness. So I appreciate, when you're talking about this, is like if we were to join Weight Watchers, if I reached my LD weight, I wouldn't bounce out of there. We stick with the program.
Right.
Because, our weight fluctuates, and nothing fluctuates more, absolutely nothing, than our time and our attention and our focus. That is all over the place all the time. And that's why we need, to keep getting back after it and creating accountability. In your case, you keep coming back to figuring out batching, and you do it, but you fall off the wagon sometimes. And for anybody listening, writing is one of those things. Kristen's 1,000,000% right. You almost have to, what I have found, you almost have to knock it out like ASAP. When you wake up and you're alert, and this doesn't work for everybody. If you're trying to get 4 kids off to school, maybe you got to wake up way before they did, or as soon as you get them done, you find that quiet place and you block out 60 to 90 minutes and you give yourself some prompts to do it. But you're right. There's no dopamine hit. There's just
shut down all the other browsers and you turn off your phone, and it's a very difficult thing to do. Getting into that creative zone is something I think, especially as a mom, maybe as a woman, I have had trouble doing that because we are just constantly managing. And
that's right. So, and again, I don't want to get in trouble for mansplaining, but I'm basing this off my wife and a lot of the female entrepreneurs that are moms that I've worked with. When you're thinking about how do you get the 14-year-old to soccer practice, and at the same time, why the 12-year-old get a 0 on something they just turned in. I know they turned it in, and why is there socks here? And I got to get back to this other guy. But the 14-year-old soccer practice starts at 2, and I can get there. And then it flashes over to like dumb dad entrepreneur. Not that dads are dumb, but and I'm just like, I wonder if Will Levis is going to make it as a quarterback. And then I just sit there and pause and hang out for a minute. So how do you, a lead in here, I'm big on prioritization. How do you prioritize what you're tackling for either the day or even, maybe for the week?
Yeah. So I asked my husband, I've learned this about myself in adulthood. So I excelled in school. You give me a syllabus, you give me external guidelines and standards to meet, and I'll do it. Self-setting, independently setting those standards or those goals or those guidelines, priorities, is very difficult for me, whether it's just a synapse in my brain that doesn't fire correctly, or it's some trait that I just didn't learn. I don't know. But what I have learned is that my husband, who is external from me, can look at me from an outside and say, okay, here's your 3 biggest priorities today.
Got you.
Oh, yes, you're right. He helps me cut through it. I don't know if you know anything about Enneagram. If you've ever
I'm the only person on planet Earth that doesn't know what my freaking Enneagram is. I know everybody else does, and they're too. I have no clue.
Well, it's been very helpful for me. For those who want to dig into it, I'm an Enneagram 9. Whoa. And I read something once, I listened to a podcast once where it's very common for an Enneagram 9 to just see all of the things that he has to do and not be able to prioritize it. The example given was a woman had written down everything she had to do for a week on note cards, and then she'd laid them all out in front of her, and her husband came up next to her and said, so which ones are your priorities? And she just stared at them all and said, all of them. All of them. I can. And he, being the external person, was able to point, these are the 3 you need to work on today. So that's where my husband, as my partner in life, has been able to come in and say, okay, this is what you need to focus on today. Tonight we have community group. So your goal is to make sure this house can handle 20 extra people coming in.
Wow.
All right. Okay, I can do that. Oh, and I have to cook 5 pounds of ground beef to feed everyone. So these are my priorities today. So that has helped me admit that that's a weak spot for me and ask for outside help. And that's humility and not marriage. And there you go.
I think that is absolutely brilliant. I've talked about prioritization till I'm blue in the face and have not really touched on that enough. And which is idiotic because I'm a coach. And that's the thing I like to help people with, is identifying their priorities. And if we struggle with it, I struggle with it. You get 15 things you want to do this week. And when you look at all of them and say they're all a priority, they're not priorities at that point. It's a to-do list, which is fine. What goes at the top of the to-do list? And I love the fact that you get external help. And I think that's why, and this isn't a pitch, but anybody could use a coach or a group or an outside viewpoint, and it may or may not be, your spouse, but in your case it is. It's somebody else who can kind of see the forest for the trees, so to speak.
Yep.
And when I'm telling folks, how do I know what my priority is? List all the things you have to do. What are the things that A, only you can do, B, that move you closer to money, C, that are going to make everything else kind of fall into place. So, by figuring out what those top keys are, and in a lot of cases, in your case, it may be more training and content. So when you do that, that gives you more clients and that gives you a full pipeline. And then you can work on batching those things together to get them done.
Yeah, correct.
Anybody watching can see that I've been fighting gnats or fruit flies for about 5 episodes now.
Great. Fun.
Welcome to Tennessee, folks. If you're listening, that's totally useless, and I apologize. Just picture me talking to Kristen while I'm waving my hands around in the air at invisible bees.
Grabbing at things in the air.
I am Mr. Miyagi. So look, when you get these prioritized, that means so you've prioritized your list, you've batched what you can. How do you decide what you're going to eliminate? Like, here's the things we're just not going to do.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a hard question. It is just really hard because there is so much that has to get done. For me, at the end of the day, the things that get eliminated are the extras. There's not much in work that can be eliminated for me. I am so scaled down and bare bones, keeping the company going. There's just, I already kind of do only what needs to be done. For me, it's the saying no outside of the home. So volunteer opportunities at the kids' school or leading extra things just externally. I've learned I only have so much bandwidth for that kind of stuff, even though I love doing that, whether it's being in my kids' school or in the community.
Sure.
I am drawn to those things because it's external. It's someone else saying, rise to this challenge, show us you can do it. So I'll go do it at the detriment of my household, at the detriment of the menial tasks I don't want to do.
That's right.
So I do have to be very careful to pay attention to how much I'm saying yes to really good things.
Yeah.
I need to make sure I'm doing the boring things at home that keep this house and keep this company running.
You've set boundaries is essentially what you've done. And it's hard for so many, especially if you're a solopreneur, you do stuff from the house and you got kids, you want to be involved in what the kids are doing. You want to be involved in what your church is doing. You've been asked to be on this board, serve on this committee, help at the chamber, do whatever it is at the Rotary, because the Rotary has something going on all the time. Yeah. And you say yes, 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 which is fantastic because you have the flexibility to do it. But you've already figured out every time you say yes to one thing, you're going to say no to one, sometimes even 2 other things. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way to rationalize. Well, I can get both done.
You can't.
And if you've got both done, okay, well, then you gave up on some sleep or going to the gym or
that self-care.
Hey, I'm telling you, in my house, the thing that stops everything to a grinding halt, business included, is the dishes. That dadgum dishwasher. If the sink is full, and we all have these stupid giant sinks now, these farmhouse sinks, we have them too. That you can stuff every dish you've ever had in there, and that stops everything. There's no dinner, there's nothing clean.
Yep.
So you have to figure out, what am I going to say no to so I don't have to fight the dishes, which I know is not a great example, but I just came from a house.
But it's a very real example, because you're right. If that dishwasher isn't ready to be loaded when the kids have dishes to load it, then everything pauses and my whole evening is off track. So I think it's a great example.
I'm going to create curriculum around that. How to
There you go.
properly handle. But I need somebody else to do it because I don't know how to do it apparently. So look, you've eliminated some stuff, and you paused when you said it like you don't, and I can tell that you do. You don't check email 42 times a day anymore.
No,
You do sometimes, but you try not to.
I
That's a
try not.
thing you've
When I
eliminated.
find myself doing that, I tell myself, you must need to go for a walk or something. Like
Yeah,
you're looking for some sort of hit that email
that's
is
right.
not going to satisfy. So,
No, and that's going to put you behind on several other things that you really wanted to do that make a difference. So when we're doing that, you had said something also about outsourcing and your sister's doing some work. What do you outsource? What do
yeah.
you delegate?
So, when I first joined my dad years ago, he wasn't really sure what he was going to do with me. He literally just offered me a job. I was tired of the job I was doing. So I said, sure. And we figured it out. We fumbled through for 5-10 years before we really figured out what I was good at and what I should be doing. And part of that was like staying up on the accounting, the invoicing, the payments to vendors, just that like menial stuff, getting the credit card statements to our accountant, that kind of stuff. And after a while, I said, the amount of hours that I can work being a mom with 4 kids and all the things that I'm doing, I'm spending too many of my hours doing this stuff. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
more important that I'm client facing, that I'm
Yep.
available for appointments, that the work time I do have is more high level and not, oh, I have 6 invoices to send or checks to write or whatever.
Sure.
So we looked at my sister Molly, who had gone through some VA training, virtual assistant training.
Get out, Molly. Look
Yeah.
at you.
So my sister-in-law is a VA coach and has a VA program and like runs all these things and then matches small businesses with
Yeah.
VAs too. And so my sister Molly had gone through my sister-in-law's training and had found that as a mom of 4 herself, she wanted to bring in some cash from home. And
Sure.
so she's a VA. And we hired her to do, I think it's only 10 hours a month. It's not a ton of work, but
Sure.
it's just enough to take all of those little tasks that I don't love
Mm-hmm.
doing off my plate. So that outsourcing was very helpful. One interesting thing, as she and I figured out what I could outsource to her, and then I realized there were some things I couldn't that I wanted to. One
That's
of
right.
it was writing up contracts. So when we have a client come to us and they want to hire us to speak, I thought, well, okay, Molly will just take over filling in all the details for those
Sure.
contracts. But I found that there's enough nuance with each client and what
Mm-hmm.
they're purchasing from us, what their expectations are, what their conference or workshop's
Yeah.
going to look like, that it became more time consuming for me to explain to Molly what to put
Correct.
in that. So I took that back. So even when you outsource, sometimes you realize, nah, it's faster
Yep.
if I just do it myself. And that was a good learning lesson for us.
And that's awesome that you recognize that. And
Yeah.
so many times that's so often something I hear from people who are resistant to outsourcing because they say everything is faster if I do it myself.
And it
And
is.
there's but what you found is there's some recurring things that in theory you could do it. Maybe you could do it faster than your sister. However, once you stack those together and find out, well, I'm in this CRM and I'm posting this or I'm getting this from clients, it's 10 hours a week, or in her case, would you say 10 hours a week or 10 hours a month?
Only a month. Yeah.
That's 10 hours that she can do it. And if it's a recurring task that doesn't have to be, it doesn't have nuance all the time. You create one SOP out of it, you hand it over to them, you check in on them and let them do it. If it's really and truly nuanced and you have to change it and do it over and over, then that's a great way to look at it. That's something you don't outsource. And for a lot of people, they've outsourced their entire brand or personality to somebody else. And when you go read and watch what they're doing online, you realize you did outsource it. And now I don't have a clue who you are. That might have been something you should have held on to. And it's going to be different for everybody.
It is. Yep.
So
That's
look, we're 30 minutes flew by. So look, all right. So Kristen has got 4 kiddos, a pug named Peggy, doing all this from the house, working, shutting down most evenings fairly early. You have figured out what needs to be batched, what needs to get done. You've gotten help with a prioritization. You've had to tell some people no to some things that you wanted to do, but it made you more efficient and gave you time to do the things you want to do with your family and with your church and everybody else, and you even outsource some stuff. So what are some things, this is the transition, the semi-softball that's really hard. What are some things that you should still be doing less of, Kristen?
Yes, I should. It feels so cliche to say, but I should be scrolling on my phone less. And
At least you admit it.
But it's just so true. I can tell myself I'm looking for ideas or I'm learning good things, but unless I then take those good things and actually go implement them in my life, I'm not learning anything. I'm just collecting all this knowledge that I'm not doing anything with. So for me, it's scrolling. And then I really should continue to do less, as much as I have worked on it, less of the waiting for the email to come in to dictate what I should do for the day. I do need to less often check my email hoping for tasks to come in, and instead, set my own checklist for the day and then do it and then be done with it. I do in slow seasons, which I would say, coming before the holidays, especially after an election, it's a pretty slow season for any business. I should be doing less of the waiting for emails to come in and more of the, hey, I have time right now and mental energy. I should be creating and writing and doing all those kinds of things more. So it's both and less of the waiting and more of the taking action.
The scrolling is one thing that most folks won't admit. Well, I'm not really well. Here's what I do. And I don't know if you've done this recently, but I'll, all right, well, let's go to, you got an iPhone? Yeah, I got an iPhone. Let's go to settings. Let's go to screen time. Let's check what apps we're using. Oh, this is how long. Well, I know it says 7.5 hours, but dude, that was a whole work day.
Yep.
And there are some things that you do get to use it for that make sense or help your business, or maybe you had the maps on all day while you're driving. That's different, but it's time for everybody to go take a check. And the fact that you recognize that the checking the email, I'll just check it real quick, looking for something to do because you don't want to work on the thing that you might not want to work on is fantastic. So if you eliminate some scrolling and you eliminate going to check, Gmail real quick, what will that let you do more of?
It will let me get into that. Okay. So either if I'm in work mode, it'll let me get into that creative space more. Last week, I was invited to speak at a completely non-work related, just separate women's event at a local school here. And so I had the honor of creating a new talk on friendship, just something I would never do. It wasn't personal accountability. It wasn't QBQ at all, which that I can deliver in my sleep. This was a fresh message. And it taxed me in a way that I haven't had in a while, because I had to actually use brain power to create something brand new and make sure the message made sense. And it had 3 points and I had PowerPoint slides with it. And that took a lot of my brain power this week. And the reason I was able to do that is I shut off my laptop. I took the social media apps off my phone. I tucked my phone away and I focused on creating that content. And now I don't even remember what question you asked, but it seemed like this was relevant.
That's allowing you, so the less doom scrolling and the less email, let you say yes to something you have normally been either stressed about or wouldn't have wanted done, and you went and did a presentation, and I'm sure it went great. And
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it caused you to think about something differently. Anytime you have to teach something, it forces you to go do it.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it's fun to have that deadline. Again, external deadline got me to do something. So that's something I know about myself. And I even had to say no to a standing regular kind of moms group that I go to on Wednesday mornings that I've chosen to make space for on Wednesday morning. You know, that's a pretty prime work time. I had to say no to that last week because I knew I needed to get this part done. So it's really being flexible with, what does this week look like? What are my priorities this week? This week I have to say no to this, and I have to scroll less, and I have to check email less so that I can get this thing done that's due this week.
Well, Kristen, that is, time flew by. How can somebody find you if they would like to?
QBQ.com. It's all there. You can find my inquiry, my email there. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn, pretty easily to find on both of those places. So happy to connect with anyone who wants to know more about what I do professionally, or who just wants to follow another mom who's constantly texting driving 4 kids around. So Yeah.
I was going to say do both. I know we didn't
Yeah.
we didn't talk about QBQ. I've already said we talked about QBQ, but look, I fantastic book. Read it years ago. Got your dad to sign my copy.
Oh, great.
So either way, great information. Follow her for both, and I will let you go make 5 pounds of ground beef now.
Thanks. I'm so excited to do that.
All right. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, advisor, agent, or freelancer, listen up. You'd rather do what you love, spend more time with family, friends, traveling, exercise, sleep. Have the time to do what you want instead of putting out fires, fighting never-ending to-do lists, checking email at 9 p.m., then go to yourcharlesalexander.com. I've created the toolkit you need with all the bells and whistles to help you streamline your workflow without sacrificing your income. Just go to yourcharlesalexander.com, scroll to the bottom, grab the exclusive toolkit, and start seeing results right away and take the first step toward a more balanced work life. And as always, if you don't, an angel may actually lose its wings. True story. Have a great day.